Okay, this is a very important slide. We're going to talk about hematopoiesis. We're going to talk about how stem cells give rise to other cells, and we should take from this slide the pathway and for these individual cells and know what gives rise to what. You may notice some of the words give away what they do. For example, when you see blast would mean the beginning or stem cell, and when you see site, it means a mature cell. It's not always written here, this is not clearly in this slide, but for example, erythroblasts would give rise to the erythrocytes. And anyway, let's take a look at the top. We start here with a multipotential hematopoietic stem cell, or hemocytoblast, and it gives rise to basically two sections. We have the lymphoid and myeloid progenitors, or a common lymphoid progenitor and common myeloid progenitor. Let's look at the myeloid section first. We have megakaryocytes, erythrocytes, mast cells, and myeloblasts, which then give rise to these cells. So let's take a look at the megakaryocyte, and this is the cell which gives rise to the thrombocytes or platelets, and what these are pieces that are broken off from the megakaryocyte. Erythrocytes, of course, are the red blood cells, and you note the hemoglobin component, which is carrying the oxygen. They're not nucleated. We have a mast cell here, and we have a myeloblast, and the myeloblast would then give rise to all of the fills. And if you remember, the fills are the granulocytes. I use the way to remember this. I say Phil likes granny, and so the granulocytes are the fills, the basophils, which looks like kind of like a blueberry bagel, and the nucleus that sort of fills the cell, then the neutrophil, which is the component of pus. And you can see they're like little beads, and kind of on a line, on a string, that they're separated into 2 or 3 pieces. And then we have the eosinophils, and which have the giveaway red parts. These are eosinophils. And then the monocytes, which give rise to the macrophages, and the monocytes have this sort of kidney bean shape, and these would give rise to the macrophages. So just remember that if you see a macrophage, you have to know that they come from monocytes that come from myeloblasts, and this should be easy to remember because you know they come from the myeloid progenitors. And blast is the meaning for the beginning of, and this is the immature or stem cell. Now, we just talked about granulocytes and said that they are the fills, but how about the agranulocytes? They would be the macrophage, for example. Talking a little bit about the agranulocytes, they're also known as mononuclear leukocytes, as they are they have a one-lobed nucleus. And they're characterized by the absence of granules in their cytoplasm, which distinguish them from granulocytes, as I just talked about. And some examples of the agranulocytes are the monocytes, for example. And then looking over on the other side, we have B cells. Let me see, B cells and T cells and natural killer cells, which are from the lymphoid progenitors. So these are examples of the agranulocytes, and the granulocytes are the fills, the basophil, neutrophil, and eosinophils. So I think that we have a good understanding here, but remember that the main 2 sections are the myeloid and the lymphoid, and then we have megakaryocytes, erythrocytes, mast cells, and myeloblasts coming off the myeloid progenitors. And then off the other side, we have the lymphoid cells, which are NK cells, and the smaller lymphocytes, T, B, and the plasma cells. Remember that the plasma cells come from the B lymphocytes, which give rise to antibodies. Okay, thank you very much.